This present crisis, government is not the solution to our problem. Government is the problem.
By its very existence and character, Berlin remains the most compelling argument for an open world. We're reminded of the many traditions of openness and democracy that have marked the history of this city. Missed me. You know, I've been around a while myself. One of my favorite quotations about age comes from Thomas Jefferson. He said that we should never judge a president by his age, only by his work. And ever since he told me that, I've stopped worrying.
By the summer of 1980, the United States was a nation in distress. This chart shows the exact moment the country's 12.7% inflation rate crosses over President Jimmy Carter's approval rating, which had bottomed out at a historic 30%. Ronald Reagan appeared as an unlikely solution. The political establishment dismissed him as a Hollywood lightweight, an aging actor with a theatrical smile who lacked the depth to handle a genuine national crisis. While critics saw Hollywood as a distraction, Reagan viewed the studio system as a laboratory. He spent decades there studying audience psychology and mastering the technical mechanics of professional performance. Being underestimated gave Reagan a tactical advantage. He used his actor's toolkit to speak directly to the public, bypassing the press and establishing a new model for how a president communicates with the voters. His training began on movie sets like this one. In the 1940s, Reagan was a quintessential FDR liberal Democrat, navigating the industrial scale of the mid-century studio system. His role soon expanded from performer to negotiator. As president of the Screen Actors Guild, he was suddenly responsible for leading thousands of actors through a period of chaotic labor disputes. His perspective shifted during face-to-face battles with union factions he suspected were controlled by foreign powers. The conflict turned personal when anonymous callers threatened to throw acid in his face if he continued to oppose their agenda. This era provided Reagan with his first masterclass in ruthless negotiation. It also created a visceral hatred of communism that would dictate his approach to global geopolitics for the rest of his life. By the 1950s, Reagan took a lucrative job hosting General Electric Theater. The contract required him to tour 139 different GE manufacturing plants across the country. Speaking directly to workers on the assembly line gave him access to grassroots data. He wasn't just giving speeches, he was listening to the people. These workers shared a consistent set of grievances: high taxes, government overreach, and bureaucratic interference in their daily lives. This tour functioned as a political boot camp. It provided the economic arguments and the populist messaging Reagan needed to complete his transition into the leader of the conservative right. Reagan's entry onto the national stage came in 1964 with his Time for Choosing speech. The televised address raised $8 million for Barry Goldwater and immediately made Reagan the frontrunner for governor of California. Opponents still mocked him as an amateur, but Reagan understood how a camera could be used to bypass political gatekeepers. He spoke directly into the living rooms of voters, making them feel like he was the only one who understood their concerns. As governor, he leaned into a hardline approach to law and order. When student protesters occupied a park at Berkeley, Reagan sent in National Guard troops armed with bayonets to clear the area by force. Yet behind that public image, he demonstrated a hidden flexibility. Sacramento was his final rehearsal. He left office having proven he could satisfy his conservative base with tough rhetoric, while maintaining the pragmatism required to govern a massive, complex state. During the 1980 debates, Reagan used his actor's timing to deliver the final blow to Jimmy Carter. He ignored the policy minutiae and asked the voters, "Are you better off than you were 4 years ago?" The response was a landslide. Reagan won 44 states and immediately began using his communication skills to sell his agenda from the Oval Office. His stagecraft faced its ultimate test just months later. While leaving a hotel, Reagan was shot and critically wounded by a would-be assassin. Knowing the camera was watching, he made a conscious choice. He hitched up his pants and walked into the hospital under his own power, refusing to let the public see the president looking vulnerable or weak. This projection of sunny, invincible optimism from his hospital bed transformed his approval ratings. He used that political capital to move his economic and military plans through a Congress that had been deadlocked just weeks before. Reagan then applied his union negotiation tactics to the global stage. He went head-to-head with Mikhail Gorbachev, using the same combination of public pressure and private charm he had practiced at the Screen Actors Guild. He refused to compromise on the Strategic Defense Initiative. This conceptual shield, designed for intercepting nuclear missiles in space, pressured the economically strained Soviet Union to try and keep pace with American spending. He culminated this strategy with a piece of political theater at the Brandenburg Gate. Standing in front of the physical barrier of the Berlin Wall, he publicly challenged Gorbachev to tear down this wall. At the end of his life, Reagan faced a heartbreaking Alzheimer's diagnosis. He managed his final exit with the same sense of dignity he brought to his films, announcing his condition in a handwritten letter to the American people. The man once dismissed as an empty suit used his meticulously acquired skills to dismantle the Soviet Empire. By writing his own script and performing it with unwavering confidence, he changed the world our children inherited.